Now, it's often said that nature knows best. We're about to hear from a range of people who have figured that out and are turning to nature for solutions. Now, in the process, they're transforming problems into opportunities. Well, welcome to Echo Africa. I'm Malama Mukonde in Lusaka, Zambia. Let's cross to Lagos, Nigeria, where my colleague Chris Ellims gives us a lowdown into what's to come in today's show. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Malama. Great to see you again. A warm welcome from me too. Coming up on today's show, the Ugandan farmer growing a natural alternative to plastic bottles. Environmentalists in South Africa ensure both the nation's bird life and wind farms can thrive. And planting trees to combat rising temperatures and a lack of rainfall in the German capital. But first, deforestation in Africa is occurring at twice the average global rate, so we know what we need to do. That's right, plant a tree. We start the show in Mali, where we meet a young entrepreneur who put this principle at the heart of a business. She's combating environmental degradation in a region that's at growing risk of turning to deserts and empowering communities at the same time.
One woman, one tree, one goal. Rakiatu Traore is planting moringas in Mali, in one of the world's most arid and vulnerable regions, the Sahel. The young Malian entrepreneur has ambitious plans. My biggest goal is to get 10 million trees planted in the Sahel in Mali. What I love most is working with the women and young people and the joy on their faces when we go out to buy the moringas. My motivation is getting up every day and knowing that everything we do contributes to creating a positive economic, environmental, and social impact in the Sahel. Rakiatu Traore leaves nothing to chance, especially choosing the right spot for the samplings. The first thing we do is to prepare the ground and make sure it's not rocky, because moringa roots reach deep into the soil and rocks would stop them growing. Planting the moringas is only the start. The next step is making sure they grow and flourish. Rakiatu Traore only uses natural fertilizers and makes sure that each little tree is planted in a place where there's a water source nearby so they can still be irrigated during the dry season. Traore has an MBA in management, but for the project to work, she needs help. She enlists the support of women's groups explaining to them that moringa has economic value. She has managed to mobilize local communities and establish an efficient production chain. 3 to 5 months after planting, we return to the women to help them harvest the moringa's leaves, flowers, and seeds. They gather at the trees, sometimes with their men and children, and pick the leaves, wash them and dry them if possible. Then they sell us either fresh leaves or dried leaves. Though Mali is roughly half a desert, it has 112 classified forests covering almost 1.35 million hectares. That's less than 1% of the country's area. Even these forests are disappearing, mainly because of pastoral nomadism and logging to meet the energy needs of the growing population. Rakiatu Traore studied in Turkey, and it was there that she first discovered the potential of moringa trees. Back home, she began exploring ways to fight the effects of desertification and climate change that could also give people economic benefits. Realizing that moringa was a promising solution, she developed a business idea. Rakiatu Traore was able to gather valuable experience at an annual platform for women entrepreneurs in the capital, Bamako. I've come to the trade fair to see what's new, to share knowledge with other partners and entrepreneurs, and to find out more about people working in the environmental sector. Such as marketing, production, and packaging specialists, Rokiatu Traore has 5 permanent employees working for her in her small factory. Using the machinery she invested in, they process moringa leaves into powder and into a range of products. Moringa is in high demand as a dietary supplement that helps regulate blood sugar levels, cholesterol, and blood pressure. The final step is distribution. To make our products available everywhere in Mali and beyond, we work with several distributors. And these distributors take also our teas, powders, soaps, oils, and honeys and market them on the right bank of the Niger River in Bamako so that our products are available all over the city. The young entrepreneur has made a name for herself beyond Mali. She's received a number of awards for her work combating deforestation, but there's one she's particularly proud of. She proudly presents it to her father.
C'est ça, exactement. Celui qui nous a le plus marqué, c'est la reconnaissance.
The one that meant most to us was the United Nations recognition of our fight against desertification as a land hero. We received this distinction at the United Nations headquarters in Bonn in June.
Au mois de juin, à Bonn, au siège des Nations Unies.
Such honors motivate Rokiatu Traore to pass on her enthusiasm and expertise to as many women as possible with the aim of turning the threat of desertification facing Mali into an opportunity and fostering hope and resilience in the process.
What an inspirational woman. We wish her all the best. But we stay on the subject of trees. But now we cross to Europe and the German capital, Berlin. It's actually one of Europe's greenest cities. But even there, rising temperatures, reduced rainfall, and more new buildings means that the tree city cover is disappearing. So let's see what authorities and the public are doing about it.
This field maple tree adds the finishing touch to Ute Bernhoff's garden, which is abundant with insect oases and retreats for birds, here in Spandau on the western edge of Berlin. The field maple was a gift from the local authorities as part of its Urban Climate Trees campaign. We felt the garden could do with another tree to make it even greener, and we liked the idea of an urban climate tree. It would have a new home here. So we decided to apply because we thought we'd love to have one of those trees in our garden. The Urban Climate Trees campaign is now entering its third year. Over a 3-day period, its driver distributes over 70 specimens around Spandau. It's hard work. Applications were open to all those who own property here and who were committed to looking after the tree, from private individuals to schools, sports clubs and building management companies. The campaign was the idea of horticultural engineer Beate Rissmann. She was concerned about temperatures in Berlin having risen by 1 full degree Celsius over the past 150 years. Planting new trees is vital. Their biomass means that they also improve our quality of life, especially in cities. They offer shade and have a cooling effect, and they provide a habitat for birds and insects. They're really important, especially in central areas, when it comes to preventing cities from heating up. Worldwide, cities make up just 2% of the planet's land surface, and yet they're home to some 10 billion trees. 1 in 6 tree species are found in urban areas, where they're subject to damage from drought stress and vandalism. Others are felled to make way for roads and apartment blocks. Here on the northern outskirts of Berlin, volunteers from a tree planting association regularly attempt the impossible. For 10 years now, they've been planting trees in former sewage fields. Mike Kratz is the local forest warden. He's a frequent visitor, happy to share his expertise on issues like soil degradation. In the late 19th century, the area became a dumping ground for sewage from across the north of Berlin and remained so for over 100 years. There's still a certain amount of contamination from cadmium, lead, copper and zinc. If you walk through these old sewage fields, you'll see completely bare areas where there's not even grass growing. That's due to excessive sewage. Although the most serious problem is water retention capacity. So the trees and shrubs being planted here today need to be hardy. Goat willows, European white elms and checker trees manage with relatively little water. Some of them are treated to a quick bath beforehand in a nutrient-rich algae solution. That in itself, though, would not be enough to ensure a healthy start for the saplings. We monitor our trees for 3 years. Sometimes the grass grows really high in the summer, savanna style, putting the saplings in the shade and also competing for the same water. So we cut that down. The forester helps by bringing in huge tanks of water. We then set out into the woods in teams, which can look pretty funny, us with watering cans in the forest. But it's really worth the effort. In Uta Bernhoff's garden, the field maple tree takes pride of place. It's survived its tough first 3 years, so it should now be out of the woods. And it can hopefully look forward to another 200 summers.
The calabash or bottle gourd has many uses. It's not really eaten much, but more often used to make musical instruments, even harps, and as storage containers. Now, one farmer in Uganda realized this traditional crop could also help solve a modern problem, and his idea is catching on. Here's the Swigs doing your bit.
A calabash garden southwest of Kampala. The atmosphere here is almost magical. Farmer Godfrey Kigoya sells the gourds as a natural alternative to plastic containers and bottles. The Ruizi River is just one example of how plastic pollutes the environment and threatens biodiversity. More and more people are realizing that plastic waste is a huge problem.
This is now an opportunity. This is a new market. This is something new on market. This one has added on our income.
After harvesting, the gourds are dried and then hollowed out. It's important to Farmer Kigoya that nothing goes to waste.
What comes out as a waste, those are the seeds that comes from inside. Now that's feed for the pigs that can produce some good fibers and some good vitamins for the pigs. So they can also get some good feed. That's now recycling the wastes. So you see now there is nothing we can waste.
Calabash are traditionally used as a vessel for storing dairy products and other things. Street vendor Christine Nampanga has seen an increase in sales. There's a lot of demand for these natural products, and so I've started growing them myself. Calabash fan Martin Ogwal says the best thing is that these containers are biodegradable.
It has no side effect on the environment. When you dispose it, it is a manure. But compared to the bottles, the plastic bottles that we pick water and use out of it, you throw and it become problem to the environment.
Uganda still produces some 600 tons of plastic waste every day, and just 6% of it is collected. Godfrey Kigoya hopes his calabash can be part of a much-needed change.
For you there, which one of the two is better? Going this or going this?
Baobab trees can be found in many parts of Africa. For many, they have a deep spiritual significance, so they're often a focal point for gatherings. Their fruits, seeds, and leaves also serve as a source of healthy food. But tragically, climate change is having a devastating impact on baobabs, and that's not the only threat they face. We head to Kenya now, where environmentalists are working to rescue this beautiful tree.
A baobab tree can store water for months, allowing it to survive long periods of drought. For centuries, these so-called trees of life have played a key role in village communities along the Kenyan coast. Now, though, they are threatened by climate change. and also lobo. Last year, 8 baobab trees, all several centuries old, were exported to Georgia for planting in a park built by a former Georgian prime minister. This led to public outcry in Kenya.
How do you come to uproot something that is more than 200, 300 years and take it away? What are you actually saying to us?
Birua Hari Kiraga grew up here on the coast in Kilifi. He can't imagine a life without baobabs. The older trees in particular play an important role for the Mijikenda community. This tree is several hundred years old. It has spiritual significance for local people.
If we have drought, if we have other calamities, we will come and make prayers under a baobab tree as big as this one. It is one very important element as a faith symbol, a place where we communicate with God.
Environmental activist Elphick Tossi is on a mission to protect baobab trees. For years, he's been fighting to ensure they survive.
Other countries call it the tree of life because, one, the bark of the tree is medicinal. The leaves are useful. The powder is useful. Everything on that tree is useful. And something else, it has lived ages and ages.
Elphick Tossi is shocked that they are being exported, but he says the real problem is farmers and investors selling baobab trees along the coast to make room for agriculture and construction. Depending on its size, a felled tree can fetch between the equivalent of 500 to 1,100 euros. Good money for a local farmer, but a living tree can earn the farmer far more. Its fruit contains a large range of vitamins and minerals. In powder form, it's in high demand internationally as a superfood. The fruits are also popular in Kenya. Betty Kadzo Kalume is a teacher and sells them on the side. That earns her an equivalent of 69 euros per month, a considerable boost to her teaching salary of 200 euros.
It
provides food and also opportunities for earning money. I don't think the little money that we are given for cutting down a tree could in any way compare to the benefits we gain from it.
Elphick Tossi also visits schools in Kilifi to raise awareness about the trees among young people. He tells them about their significance for the local ecosystem and shows how to plant them correctly.
We are focused in planting 1 million fruit trees in 400 schools in Kilifi County. We want a future that all schools in Kilifi County have fruit orchard.
It's an ambitious plan which the activist is pursuing with determination. Together with students, he's planted more than 200,000 trees so far.
Have you ever heard of the green-green dilemma? Well, here's an example. South Africa has been struggling with the energy crisis for decades and reducing its reliance on fossil fuels. And that's a good thing, but wind farms can impact wildlife. So how can we resolve the conflict?
Wind power is climate friendly, but the blades can be deadly to birds, such as the Cape vulture and the black harrier, South Africa's rarest endemic bird of prey. It's Mauricia Martin's job to protect them. The former teaching assistant has retrained and is now employed at Excelsior Wind Farm, located about 100 kilometers east of Cape Town. The 32.5 megawatt wind project generates enough electricity to power about 16,000 households. As one of 9 biodiversity monitors, Mauricia Martin scans the landscape for birds. If one approaches, she makes a phone call to get the nearby turbine to shut down. The timing depends on the species.
For the black area, it must be 2 kilometers before we call one. It must be 2 kilometers for us to do warning, so that the operator can be on standby. When it's coming near the turbine, 1 kilometer, we put off the turbine.
Over 80% of South Africa's electricity still comes from coal-fired stations. Much of this infrastructure is dilapidated. Frequent power outages put a strain on the economy and make everyday life more difficult. South Africa now has about 1,000 wind turbines intended to provide more and cleaner energy, but that comes at a price. This bird, which presumably flew into a turbine tower, is one casualty.
BirdLife South Africa have been collecting data on all of the surveys for fatalities of every single wind farm, and there's about 32 operational wind farms as we speak in 2024, end of 2024 now. And we know that they kill a lot of birds. The average is about 4 to 5 birds per turbine per year across all of those 32 wind farms.
Back to Marisha Martin. If she sounds the alarm, the turbine is only switched off briefly. Once the bird has passed, operations then resume again. The shutdown on demand program has been running for 5 years with almost no loss in energy production.
No one else had really done anything like this before, so we factored in quite a high percentage, and we've been very pleasantly surprised at how little it affects the bottom line. Essentially, there's less than 1% revenue loss as a result of running this program.
Today, new wind farms have to meet strict environmental standards. The Excelsior Wind Farm is near Black Harrier breeding sites. Today, getting it built would be challenging due to the mitigation measures that have to be put in place. Conservationist Odette Smith welcomes efforts to reduce bird fatalities, but says more needs to be done.
The wind farm has and started with a fantastic program called Shutdown on Demand, which they are implementing, and they are probably implementing it better than any other wind farm in the country. But despite that, because a harrier is a relatively small bird, and this system relies on human beings who do make mistakes and do overlook things sometimes, harriers are still getting killed.
Her NGO has equipped approximately 20 birds with GPS trackers, allowing them to follow the birds' routes and locate nesting sites. The NGO hopes its findings and recommendations can play a role in decisions about where new wind farms are built.
At the moment, where we have tracked birds, it's been incredibly useful already. Where there's a wind farm application or an approval for a wind farm, for us to show where there may be high risk because of just a foraging pattern of the birds that are coming out of this particular colony.
The Umoya Energy Wind Farm, 120 kilometers north of Cape Town, is trialling a different approach to bird protection. On each of the 4 wind turbines where the most bird collisions occur, red stripes have been added to one rotor blade. This was done at a cost of $120,000. Bird expert Rob Simmons set up the pilot project. It takes into account the unusual vision of birds of prey.
They've got very low contrast abilities, 10 times poorer than you and I. So if you make it color, the raptors are going to see it from a long way off. And if you make it high contrast, also they're going to see it. And it does seem to be working here.
5 days a week, teams visit the turbines to look for carcasses. At those with red blades, they don't find any casualties.
The really good news is from this Hopefield wind farm that in 19 months post-treatment, we have managed to reduce the fatality rate to 0. So there are no more raptors, and there were 7 before we started in 2 years, and 0 since. Despite the fact there's still raptors around.
Back at the Excelsior Wind Farm, one bird species is benefiting especially from the monitoring.
So we see it as highly effective. So the program essentially initially was designed primarily for Cape vulture, and we've been 100% effective. In other words, we have had no Cape vulture fatalities here at Excelsior as a result of implementing the program.
You may start turbine 3. It's a safe zone. Thank you.
As for Marisha Martin, she says that nature didn't used to mean so much to her, but watching the birds has taught her to appreciate their beauty.
And that's the most important point. We can all learn to appreciate nature and start looking after our beautiful planet. It's time to say goodbye now. I'm Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria. If you'd like to watch more uplifting stories, just search for Eco Africa online. You'll find a host of content from Africa and beyond.
And it's goodbye from me, Malama Mukonde in Lusaka. We hope you have enjoyed the show. And if anything has inspired you, do let us know at echo@dw.com. We love hearing from you. So I'll see you next time.